Hey guys, welcome back. In my last video, I talked about some places you could invest your money, right? We could invest in real estate, the stock market, fine art, luxurious cars, things of that nature, maybe a business. Well, what about paying off debt, right? And what about paying off debt on your house, for example? This is a common question that many homeowners have. Should I pay off my house or invest in the stock market, right? And you'll see thousands of these videos out there. Every YouTube financer has done it, right? They've done the comparison of, an interest rate on a house, paying that off in like 15 years or earlier, right? Paying it off early versus investing in the S&P 500, which gives an 8% rate. And there's an arbitrage there between your 8% and whatever your mortgage rate is, right? And that's cool. There's some YouTubers that'll have scenarios where, you pay off your house early and you put the money into the market at the end, and sometimes it comes out to be more, sometimes less, depending on the rate you're on, right? I mean, all that's fine and dandy, right? You're going to make more money one way or the other, right? Depends on your situation. But honestly, I really don't even care about that. It doesn't even register with me, okay? What I care about more when it comes to paying off my house early is one thing: age and risk appetite, okay? Age is probably the most important factor in you paying off your house, okay? Everyone's situation is different. No two people have the same situation when it comes to their home, right? Some people, they buy their homes early in their 20s. Some people start later in their 30s. Some people in their 40s, right? And what else happens out there? People upgrade their houses. They take out a new 30-year fixed mortgage later on in their life, okay? So age is really a key critical component to paying off your house early versus investing. Now, and what do I mean by that? Why is that important? Well, risk comes into play. Houses and mortgages are liabilities, okay? And depending on your age, that liability has a bigger effect than you can think, okay? So let's talk about age and where it applies. Well, you definitely want to have exposure in the market for a long period of time, right? You want to capture the compound growth, decade over decade over decade, right? So when it comes to your age, let's assume that you have no exposure in the stock market and you're 20 years old and you buy a house. Cool, great, congrats, you got a house at 20 years old. If you have no exposure in the stock market, I recommend you put your money in the stock market so you can get that compound growth versus paying off your house early in your 20s, okay? So my thoughts on it are, in your 20s and 30s, put your money in the stock market, okay? Now, if you had a super high interest rate, maybe like 7-8% on your house, well, you could consider paying off your house early, but I would still want to get some exposure in the stock market in your 20s and 30s, okay? Because you could get some years where, you're getting 10, 20% in the S&P 500. This year alone, the SPY is up 26% year to date. That's crazy, right? So you could be missing out on some big years if you're paying off your mortgage early, right? And you have time in your 20s and 30s, right? So that's my take on that age bracket. 20s and 30s, get money in the market. Don't pay your house off early. You don't need to, all right? There's also a factor of risk in your career. You have years left in your career in your 20s and 30s. You're still not super expensive in the job market, right? Now, let's get to the next step, right? In your late 30s and 40s, okay, you're more at risk in the job market. You're getting up there in the salary ranges, right? So you have more risk for longevity in your career. Now, you are in the prime of your career. I hope your career goes well. Hopefully you don't have any problems there, but you could, right? The higher your wages, the more risk you are of getting laid off, right? And then you may have to move around. And if you just got a brand new mortgage, let's say you upgraded your house in your mid to late 30s and in your 40s, you might want to consider paying your house off early. Now it all depends, right? Do you have exposure in your late 30s and 40s in the stock market? You may already have money in the stock market, right? You might already have a retirement plan, a 401k. Maybe you've got, close to 6 figures in that plan. I hope you do, right? Maybe it's 50K, maybe it's 70K, who knows, right? But if you already have exposure in the stock market, you've already started the compound growth journey. So my take on that is if you were starting a new 30-year fixed mortgage in your late 30s and 40s, you might want to pay a portion into that mortgage, okay? It might be prudent of you to do that. Now in my situation, I'll tell you my situation. I upgraded my house when I was 41, and it's a 30-year fixed, and I'm paying it off early. Now I'm still investing a portion in the stock market. Don't get me wrong, I'm not going to stop doing that because I want to compound, right? But I'm 41. If I wait 30 years, I'm going to be 71 until my mortgage is paid off. No, I don't want that liability when I'm 71 years old, approaching retirement. Okay, I'm paying down my house. I'm not aggressive on it. I'm paying $250 a paycheck, right? It's a good chunk. I still think that's a good chunk to pay on a house, right? Now, if you're in your late 30s and 40s and your mortgage is almost paid off because you kept your starter home and you're not upgrading, even then, I still don't think you should pay it off if it's like at a 3 to 5% interest rate, which a lot of people are at, because it's almost paid off. Every payment you're making is going towards the principal, most of it, right? So like if you're in your late 30s, 40s, and you just start a new mortgage, those first extra payments go towards a ton in killing the principal, all right? And then later on, your main payments are going to start, tearing up on the principal later on. So, people would probably still argue, hey, you should invest in the stock market, forget paying off the mortgage. But I'm going to tell you this, okay? And here's the funny thing about all these YouTubers. They compare it to the 8%. Everyone's used to just getting the 8%, Why not go for more than that? Why not want to get 25% a year or 15% a year, right? Why can't you do that? Because you got liabilities in your life. You're not willing to go catch and ride the big waves, the risky stocks. None of the YouTubers talk about that. All they talk about is the 8%, the 8%. Let's compare it to the 8%. Compare it to the 8%. Well, if you have your house paid off, what could you do? You could invest in riskier investments and make higher returns. The bigger the risk, the bigger the return. You've heard that phrase. Everyone's heard that phrase, right? You're going to put all your money in a single stock, like maybe not all your money, but a big chunk. Are you going to go and invest 100K into, let's say, Meta or Tesla or a small cap company, right? That has even more upside, right? If I can pay off my mortgage in, let's say, 10, 12 years, I'll be like 55 years old. I'm still ready to hustle and still ready to make some big moves. And if I don't have a house payment at 55, you think I'm going to put my $3,000 in the S&P 500 that I pay a month in this house payment? No, man. I'm going to ride some big waves. I'm going to go out and go find some 10% a year companies, 20% a year companies. You have the optionality when you have your house paid off. You have the freedom when you have your house paid off. That's the key to this whole thing. It's all about age when it comes to paying off your house versus investing in the market. It comes down to age. Now, like I said, I'm still investing in both the market as well as paying off my house right now at this time. But if I was in my 20s, which I was, and I did this, I did not pay extra on my house. I just put money in the market as much as I could, and I didn't pay extra on my mortgage. And it paid off. Right? It paid huge dividends because now that all that money that I saved in my 20s and 30s is compounding like crazy in my 40s. Okay? So, you listen to all the YouTubers compare the numbers. That's cool. It's good to get some insight and some comparables there, but it's all about age at the end of the day. How old are you and what exposure do you have in the stock market? Now, it's going to be a struggle if you're like 50 and you take out a new 30-year fixed mortgage and you have zero exposure in the stock market. You're in a rough spot, right? You haven't invested. It's going to be a struggle. I would still recommend at that point, this is just my opinion, I'd still probably do both. Even if I was 50 years old, taking out a new 30-year fixed, I'd invest some money in the stock market and I'd pay some extra on the principal on the mortgage just to get that thing out of your way. You don't want to be 80 years old, still have a mortgage payment. Are you kidding me? You'll never retire, okay? So anyways, I just thought I'd do a comparable video. It's a little bit different. I'm not going to go through numbers or anything like that. I just want to emphasize that paying off your mortgage early versus putting more money in the stock market, it comes down to age. And that's the most important thing, at least in my opinion. So let me know what you guys think. You know, is age a consideration? I've seen on my analytics on YouTube, most of the people watching my channel are between 25 and 45. So I bet you it ranges for a lot of people. Some people in their 40s are probably thinking, man, I better pay this house down if it's a new mortgage, right? Maybe you upgraded. You probably did in 2021, 2020, 2022 when the rates were at like 3%, but now they're at 7%. So maybe a lot of people aren't upgrading as much these days. So, but anyways, let me know what your thoughts are and take a look at my previous video, and everyone have a great day. Thanks.